Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome. Good afternoon. Good morning, maybe if you're in
Yes,
Hawaii.
go ahead.
Okay, hi.
Evening to some. Hello. Thanks everyone for joining us today. We're going to have some people arriving over the next few minutes, so we will get kicked off here soon. And as you arrive, please keep yourself muted and yet feel free to introduce yourself in the chat. We invite you to share your name, where you're joining us from, and maybe what brings you here today, what you're excited to learn about, or what you hope to gain from this time together. So please go ahead and do that, and feel free to chat with one another on the side there. And for those of you who don't know me, my name is Trish. I use she, her pronouns. I'm the executive director of the Cohousing Association of the United States. And I'm so excited about today because this is the first event for the first ever National Cohousing Week. And I'm really excited about this just amazing gathering of people. We have a week of virtual events and then a weekend full of, we're creeping up close to 100 open house events across the country. So we're really excited. And I want to give a huge shout out. And if we can all just give a big collective hug of gratitude to Rains Cohen and Neil Planchon, who are my co-producers of this week. And many of you know them and many of you are here because of them. So lots of love sent their way. Okay. With that, I am also pleased to introduce and hope you also give some sort of virtual hug to the Vice President of the Board of the Cohousing Association of the United States, and my dear friend, Jim Mendel. Take it away, Jim.
Okay. Hello. So I'm seeing the slides right now? Are you sharing?
Sorry, yes, and I will advance as you tell me to, so.
Okay. Okay, let me see. Coho US is a national nonprofit, as you can see on the screen there, that is really trying to create more co-housing, but also we're trying to help people that are in co-housing now to be caring and collaborative neighbors and use the Earth's resources and live an abundant life. We do education, advocacy, and networking. And you can actually go to our website and you can actually find out a lot about what else co-housing does. I'm not seeing the notes here. So just want to let you know that, Trish.
That's all right. You're doing great, Jim.
Okay, I'll just ad lib. So yeah. So we have a bunch of co-housing events that are coming up. And this is the first one, East Coast Spotlight, Co-Housing Research. Then we're going to do the Midwest, and then Seniors in Co-Housing, and then the West Southwest. And that will be what we do for the week. But the open houses are going to be on the weekend, next weekend. And that will be a time where people can actually either virtually or in person go to co-housing events at the actual co-housing communities. And this is the after party that will be after the events occur, and you can join. Anybody who wants to can go to the Zoom that's listed right here and celebrate with your stories, successes, photos. And it's going to be there's no registration required. So I hope that a lot of people come to that. To be a time to celebrate our successes. Okay, so most co-housing is designed to be ecological and affordable. So you want to know each of these things are going to be discussed And I think Charles Durrett is going to do that program. And the idea is that we can, when we build co-housing, we tend to build so that solar perhaps can be used in all the communities. They are more affordable in the sense they're smaller homes. So because we use common houses where we can have bigger gatherings and have meals together. So it's a great way to live.
Thanks, Jim. I'll take it over and just share. So this is our next offering on the Cohousing Institute, which is our virtual training platform. We have events all year round. Our next one, as Jim mentioned, is our affordable and ecological co-housing design with the co-founder of co-housing in the United States, Chuck Durrett. And then we also are really excited to share with you an in-person event that we have coming up on November 1st. So save the date, registration's not ready, but we're pleased to share Cohousing and Beyond, which is a gathering on collaborative neighborhoods that will be hosted in Sacramento, California. It will be on November 1st, and I'm sorry, on November 2nd. And then there will be community tours on October 31st and November 1st. So we got to correct that graphic. So save the date for that in-person event. We're excited to see some of you in person in California. And then we also have the Commons, which is our monthly event. Probably many of you have attended. We do this on the 10th of every single month for the co-housing curious, but it's really this beautiful combination of people who are new to co-housing and people who have been in the scene for a long, long time. And we share a little bit about co-housing, and then we have about half of the session to connect with one another and find fellow dreamers, etc. So join us at the Commons on the 10th of every month at 10 a.m. Mountain. And just a little bit about who we are. So as Jim mentioned, we are a national nonprofit really working towards shifting culture. And each of you are part of that cultural transformation. We truly need each and every one of you to support us, to help us grow community-rooted housing nationwide. So we are a small nonprofit, and we really benefit from donations of time, money, and expertise, and even a very small monthly donation can make a huge impact in terms of how we do this work nationally. So I will provide a link in the chat, or you can scan that QR code. That's all about how you can get involved with CoHUS in a number of ways. So we hope you join us. And then another thing I'm really excited to share here is in celebration of National Co-Housing Week, we're offering a very special discount for new members of all types. So CoHUS membership includes free virtual programming all year long. So that program with Chuck Durrett, for example, would be free, as well as virtual programming throughout the entire year. Plus access to hundreds of recorded sessions on the Co-Housing Institute. You'll also receive 25% off of multi-week courses and our in-person events like that Sacramento event and like our annual or biannual national conference. So usually our individual membership is $150 a year. Today, if you're a new member, you can sign up for $100 for a year. Usually our community memberships, which give those individual benefits to everyone in your community, it's usually $750 a year, which is a steal anyway, because if you have more than 5 people in your community, it's worth it. Today, it's only $500 for the entire year. And then we have a program called Community Launch that's geared towards forming communities. So it includes lots of advertising and outreach benefits. That's a $1,500 program that we're offering today for $1,000. So I will pop that in the chat here in just a moment. And I am going to move on to our regional representatives. So first, we are joined by the one and only Ann Zabaldo from Mid-Atlantic Co-Housing Network. Ann, it's all you.
Oh, thank you. Here I am. Wait, oh, hold on. I've got my video on. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Mid-Atlantic Co-Housing. It's so great to see so many people attending this event today out on work release. I didn't think you all would be able to make it, but here you are. So Mid-Atlantic Co-Housing, what a great thing to have a regional organization. But before we start, I want to thank everyone who made this event happen, to Trish and Coho US, the other speakers on this panel and the research panel, and especially to Raines Mr. Co-Housing Cohen, who sits on the board for Mid-Atlantic Co-Housing and who very generously created these lovely slides for my presentation today. So what is MAC about? Like all of co-housing, MAC is about collaboration. It's about pooling resources. Back in 1998, Heartbeat Cities and a group of volunteers from all over DC, Virginia, Maryland, Pennsylvania, we're trying to build co-housing communities on our own in various areas. And we collaborated and decided we would have a conference, which we did in Bucks County, Pennsylvania, very well attended. And at that conference, at the end of it, we launched Mid-Atlantic Co-Housing because we could see that just as we had pooled our time, energy, and resources to create that conference, and just as we did the same thing to create our individual communities, our nascent communities, we could use those resources to support a region of co-housing communities and support each other. For instance, things like saving on training programs. Almost every community goes through facilitation training or consensus training or sociocracy or something like that. And what we do is we provide we provide training, excuse me.
Oh,
We provide training.
Ian, you should prompt Trish to do next slide
Oh,
to advance it.
next slide. Well, am I done? Okay.
Yeah.
Next slide. Okay. No, this
Yeah.
one. Don't go away. Don't go past this one. So, where was I? Okay. So we share, we collaborate on things, providing programs such as the meetup. We share that resource among all the co-housing member communities in MAC. We do joint marketing. We are also a part of the Co-Housing Open, which is Raines's baby, and he has managed to get a whole bunch of meetups to collaborate to extend our outreach in terms of dissemination of information. We've done that. We put together things like the Aging and Community Collaborative. We are also a member of Community Association, Inc., which is a very large organization dedicated to all kinds of communities, whether they're HOAs, co-ops, or condos. And they have a wealth of information on how to run your organization. So I suggest that if you can, that you get a membership there. But what we were able to do was to work with the organization, and we bought one membership. MAC bought one membership, and we got a user, independent user code for each one of our communities. So each community can use the site on their own. They don't have to. They don't all have to fight over one access code. So that's another way that we collaborate. Let's see. We have we also collaborate on things like we share information on our professional contacts. So such as our development advocate, engineers, architects, builders, insurance, management companies. And MAC has a mix of established communities. I see that some of them are here today. Shepherd Village in Shepherdtown, West Virginia. Altair in give me a break here. They're outside of Philadelphia, about 12 miles outside of Philadelphia in Pennsylvania. And I think I noticed as well, our newest member, which is Rachel Carson. A number of people from Rachel Carson are here today, so welcome. I see that Lee Peterson from the upcoming, hopefully soon to be had, Midwest Minnesota regional group is here. And of course, Marty Weatherly from Liberty Village, who's also a member community for MAC, is here. So I'm glad to see people from Mid-Atlantic Co-Housing are here, along with Lorraine Ferris. So we have a mix of established communities from urban to ultra urban to suburban, rural, and across more than a half a dozen states, along with several forming groups getting underway in the region. And you can join us on our bus tour this Saturday to see some of our established member communities up close and personal.
Next slide, I think. Yeah.
Next slide. And so you can see we will be visiting, we'll just start at the top left, which is the people looking like they're on a bus tour, looking at Blueberry Hill Co-Housing. And the next one, it's sort of at the 12 o'clock position, Blueberry Hill. The next one down, like at the 3 o'clock position, that's the roof at Eastern Village, and that's where we'll be having our wine and cheese get together after the bus tour is over. And then my very own community, I have something blocking my picture here, which is Tacoma Village. And if you see that tower in the back and you see that there's like a window open there, well, my house is right behind there, just in case you want to come visit. Okay. What's happening in our community, in our region now? Well, MAC provides a number of offerings. The Doctor is In, which is a Q&A session. Any question, anybody can answer. We're peer-to-peer counseling with each other and solving our issues together. We have, let's see, oops, can you go back? Okay, thanks. I said the Doctor is In. We have our bus tours, we have virtual tours, we have our first live tour coming up this Saturday. Rachel Carson, I think, is under construction now, and I believe that they will be hosting an event. They're going to have a table at a green and sustainable event in their area. Also, although this community, this is Hightstown, I think in New Jersey, they're not members of our organization, but they are in our region. And so we want to highlight that they have a kickoff meeting coming up in 2 weeks. Let's see. And okay, so let's get to join us and join our communities. Which slide number is this, please? Is this 14?
It's the last one.
Last one? Okay, so MAC is fun, but meaningless without your involvement. Sign up, join, support our work, and participate in our events, like the bus tour that is coming up. So grab a seat now. This is going to be quite an event. It will be the only bus tour this part of the year. We'll have a second bus tour hopefully in the fall, but that's a long way away. So if you want to learn something about co-housing, if you want to meet people face to face, if you want to see co-housers in their natural habitat, you should come on this bus tour. And even more interestingly, we find that when there are people who are trying to decide whether they're going to join your forming community and they can't make up their mind, send them on a bus tour, and I guarantee that by the end of that tour, they'll sign on the dotted line, because once you see co-housing up and running, it's just too difficult to continue worrying about whether or not to join. I also should say that these three communities are long established communities. 25 years for Blueberry Hill, 25 years for Tacoma Village, and 23 years for Eastern Village. So this gives the lie to anybody who says, oh, it won't last. It's lasting a very long time. So please come to this bus tour, and I think we are at the end of this.
Perfect timing. Thanks, Anne.
Well, just one more thing.
Yeah.
Scan the QR code, or you can phone or get in touch with me at midatlanticcohousing.org, and my phone number I think I put in the chat as well. So I don't know, should we go visit Jim Lindell?
I think so. Thank you so much to Anne and to Mid-Atlantic, and I wish that I could be on that bus tour. It truly is going to be such a source of inspiration and wisdom. So if you're in the area and you're able, I highly encourage you to sign up. So thanks so much. And yeah, with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Jim. This time, Jim's representing his home region. So he's going to talk to you about what's happening in the Northeast in Vermont in the intentional communities world. So.
Yes, so go to the slide. Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay. So we have something new in Vermont. I was having a conversation with someone in another co-housing community a little south of us. I'm in Bristol Village Co-housing, which is between Middlebury and Burlington, if you know Vermont. And we decided to try to get communities together to in person to go to a co-housing community and meet there. So the first one was at Bristol Co-housing. Second one was at Cobb Hill Co-housing. And then we had a third one at Burlington Co-housing, but we have one coming up. It's going to be on Saturday, May 31st in Montpelier at White Pines Co-housing. White Pines Co-housing is unusual. It's only 6 houses and they share a huge barn, which is where we're going to have our meeting. And you can even come and stay the night and bring a tent, or they have some housing there. What do we do with those meetings? We first, what we decided to do was have people come for work day. So when you go there, you actually can go out and into their gardens and help with their gardens or whatever else work they have. One of the things about co-housing that you might be surprised about is we all look forward to work day. It's a time where we bond together and we really get things done. So it's one of the most exciting things about co-housing. So this is a work day that at Cobb Hill Co-housing, which I attended, and I was helping with the blueberry bushes, which had so many weeds and things involved to get away from those blueberry bushes. And in the morning, we got it all done. And it was so great to help out. And this other co-housing community that is sponsoring us, White Pines Co-housing, also has work for us to do. After that, we all meet together and we talk about all the issues of co-housing, which include governance, resales, how do you deal with difficult people? Because there are sometimes in communities, and we have ways of actually integrating them into the community, even if they might have some problems. So next slide. So this is Cobb Hill Co-housing, which is sponsoring an event tomorrow at 7 p.m. And this is the oldest community in Vermont. It was established in 2003. And they have 23 households and 50 residents. And they not only get together in their community to just have a great community together. They work together. They make cheese. They have shiitake mushrooms and maple syrup. And it's situated on 270 acres of forest and farmland. So that's a very rural community. And in Vermont, we have some that are rural, some that are in the city, which Burlington Co-housing is in a city, the largest city in Vermont, which is not very big. And they have more apartment size co-housing. But the rural co-housing is often farm-based. So There's another community, there's several communities that have large farms and they actually provide food for the surrounding communities. So next slide. So in the 60s, I don't know if anybody knows this, but probably that Vermont was known for many communes that got set up, particularly in northern Vermont, and particularly because of the Vietnam War, and people wanted to be close to Canada. So we have a tradition for communal living. And I think that's one of the reasons that there are so many co-housing communities in our small state. We are the second most rural state in the country, yet we have many co-housing communities. And Bristol Co-housing was established in 2017, and we have 14 homes. And we are in a village, so we're very unusual because we actually have buildings that are really old. From the our oldest building is from 1810, and then our common house was built in 1863. So we were able to use the existing buildings that were there, and then build other houses around that. So we're around a green, and in co-housing, you try to have your homes facing each other, so that we actually can get together and see each other. And on the way to the mailboxes, it might take 15, 20 minutes to get your mail because you get stopped by people as you see them on your way to the mail. So all the mailboxes are in the common house. And in our common house, we also have a rental. So one of the things that some co-housing can do is actually provide rental housing, maybe at a lower cost, to help for more affordability for residents that move in. And the people that rent tend to be just as work just as hard as the rest of us in making sure that we actually get things done. So this is a view of the mountains right behind our town in Bristol. It's a beautiful place. And we actually, one of those buildings, that barn that you see there, was built in 1799. We refurbished it so that it's actually, it looks a lot better than when we moved in. We all got together and scraped it, painted it, and made it look like it is today. And then you can see then to the left of that and to the right of that are two of the homes that we built, which all have porches. And the idea is that if you build affordably, which is to have all of our homes have the same basic floor plan, so that in 1 year we were able to build the entire community. So that was really great. So I guess next slide. So if you are interested in living co-housing in Vermont, you can contact any of the existing communities and ask for a tour. You can come for a meal, spend a night in their common house. And if there are no available homes in that community and you did want to live there, you go on a waiting list. But you can also perhaps join with a group of other interested folks, find a site and start your own community, which is what we did 8 years ago. We just had a bunch of people that wanted to live together, and we found the site and then got it constructed. So next slide. That was the last slide. Okay. So if you would like to, I'll put my information in the chat. And if you want to know more information about co-housing in Vermont, you can let me know. There's also much in the Northeast. There's a lot of co-housing in Massachusetts. There's 16 co-housing communities. There's some in Maine. There's some in every state in the Northeast. And right now we're thinking about having a Northeast community nonprofit, if we can ever get that going, like Mid-Atlantic, because that's a great model. And Anne has done a great job in pulling that together with other people. And it would be great to have something in the Northeast that was similar.
Great. Thank you so much, Jim, for representing Vermont, dreamy Vermont. And Jim's info will be in the chat if you want to learn more about co-housing there. And I believe that Mac and Anne's info should be there as well. So now I'm pleased to introduce our speakers on co-housing research. So you're gathering that each of these National Co-housing Week events will have a spotlight on a region of the US. We'll talk about what the exciting projects are going on in that region, as well as events happening this week. And then we have a topic focus, and today's topic focus is all about co-housing research. So I'm really excited to hear what they have to share. I'll be joined by Coho US board member, Dr. Heidi Berggren and Neil Planchon. Heidi Berggren is a co-housing researcher with an interest in co-housing as a potential source of broader social, economic, and ecological improvement and of civic renewal. She's an associate professor of political science and women's and gender studies at the University of Massachusetts at Dartmouth. She's a Coho US board member, as I mentioned, and she's the assistant director of the Co-Housing Research Network, CRN, which has some exciting updates to share with you here today. And then we're also joined by Neil Planchon, raised with cooperative culture values and a co-founder of the 50th co-housing community in the US, which was established 25 years ago. Neil has had the opportunity to mentor many in the community's movement, and many of his mentees are here today. He's been serving as the executive director of the Co-Housing Research Network and is a member of several circles within Sociocracy for All, and he enjoys connecting with others and supporting them on their journeys. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing and turn it over to our presenters, Neil and Heidi.
Okay. Okay, hello everybody. I hope everybody can hear me loud and clear. I'm just going to launch right in. Okay, so hello everybody. Wait, hold on for a moment. I would like to do this as a presentation. So bear with me for just one moment. Okay. Okay. So I'm Heidi Berggren, as noted. I'm a professor in political science, part of the Co-Housing Research Network, Coho US board, and overall co-housing enthusiast and intentional communities enthusiast. And I'm happy to be here to give you some highlights from the first and second phases of our 5-year-long panel survey. We are about to launch phase 3. So I'm the lead on this project, but it's definitely been a group effort with all the people that you see here on this nice long list. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just talk a little bit give a little bit of basic information about the survey, and then I'll get to some findings, some selected findings to talk about. Okay, so for this project, we do want to look at change over time. So we have a panel, right? Which means we're surveying the same residents and group members once a year for 5 years. And the hope is that this design will allow for more systematic study. So we'll be able to say with more confidence that it's sort of co-housing that makes a difference. And as many people know, it's a lot of work to get a group off the ground, a forming group, and forming groups can sometimes be inactive for quite a while, but some will progress toward establishment, and we want to capture that process. We want to try and find out what works and what doesn't, and really the only way to do that, or not the only way, but an important way to do that, is to look at change over time, change and continuity over time. So some of these survey questions come from earlier CRN surveys that produced reliable data. Some of the questions are new, and some are adapted from large national surveys, such as the National Election Survey, the General Social Survey, and the UCLA Loneliness Survey. And so that will also allow us to make comparisons of co-housers with non-co-housers, right? The general population. So we're able to look at across time and across space, at least ideally. Okay, so now for just a little bit on participants, how we recruited participants. So we collated two spreadsheets of Coho US and FIC, that's Foundation for Intentional Community, listings. So we had community listings from both of these groups. And each contained basic information about communities and groups. So I had used this information to try and distinguish co-housing from other kinds of collective housing communities and just other kinds of intentional communities altogether, because it's obviously a lot. So then I reached out to community contacts with a request to help with survey recruitment in their communities or groups. So this was the publicly available information that was in the directories. So we had used this indirect method of recruitment for phase one. And then beginning with phase two, we have been able to use more direct communication. So emailing survey respondents to invite them to take a survey once a year. Okay, just a little bit on the sample. Hopefully this makes sense. So you can see our phase one and phase two samples. And we also have the contacts for those who will comprise our phase three sample. So you can see at the top, the 535 survey respondents total. And then you can see the survey respondents broken down by stage of community development. So established communities, and then building communities that have made some big decisions and maybe gotten some land, forming groups that are kind of getting off the ground, and then also disbanded, or not necessarily disbanded, I should say inactive groups. And so we want to learn about what happens when communities go through, or groups go through, the different stages. Obviously, that's an important goal of the survey. So, but so you can see the number of communities or the number of communities that are in different stages of development, and then within that, the number of participants, individual participants in the survey. So overall, about 365 out of 535, so that's about 68%, agreed to participate in phase two. As it turned out, 267 respondents ended up participating in the phase two survey about a year later, with 201 ultimately agreeing to participate in the current phase. So we don't want to lose any more of the panel that we have, and the survey is long, and so that might be contributing to some drop off. So we're trying to, make some adjustments, but it's important to strike a balance between being true to the panel design, which does require asking a lot of the same questions, because no change is also a finding. So it's important to get that information as well. So we want to strike a balance between sticking with our panel design and then not taking up too much of people's time. But it's once a year, so we hope that people can be patient with us. So the data that we're going to look at today is based on what you see here. So we can't say it's a random sample, it's a convenient sample. So the survey questions themselves cover a wide variety of topics, many different topics, aligning with a variety of academic research interests, as well as professional interests and activists. So we made an effort to solicit, to reach out and ask what people were interested in knowing about when we came up with the survey. So today I'm just going to focus on some selected results that I think should be broadly interesting, beginning with affordability. Okay, the issue of affordability. I know Jim mentioned it earlier, and it's really an important movement now. Affordability kind of gets at a key source of tension in the movement, because co-housing would seem to have so much to offer in terms of sharing and pooling resources and responsibilities. And so therefore also kind of ultimately lowering the cost of living. Might take a while, right? But for a number of reasons, co-housing is expensive, just like any housing is expensive these days, especially if you're building it. Right, the most common legal arrangement does center ownership of units. And on an ongoing basis, there are monthly fees, which can be high. I know that's an issue now. But nevertheless, greater affordability is an important aspiration in a wider movement. And there's growing action. And as you can see here, there's sort of various processes to make co-housing more affordable. Just roughly, right, private would be financial assistance from within the community, informal arrangements or funds that loan funds perhaps, or donation arrangements that pop up within communities, nonprofit, so that would be foundations and charities and other kinds of groups. And then for government, primarily we're looking at tax credits and other mechanisms. And I think it's most clarifying to just look at the percentage row, the bottom row, and you can see the percentages of communities. This time it is communities as a whole, not individuals. So this is the percentage of communities that have anywhere between 1 and 20 plus affordable units that are subsidized by the 3 different kinds of sources. Okay. I hope that's clear. These are kind of rough measures, but I think they tell us something. And then we also had, this is really a first, again, kind of broad brush attempt to help categorize some of the written responses, because we had an other quote unquote category where people could write in, other approaches to affordability. And this is just a quick categorization of the 135 statements that people wrote. And this was from established members of or residents of established communities and members of building groups for phase 1. There was 135 written responses to this question. And so what we did for coding was to identify the top themes. And then we counted the occurrence of these themes. We weren't counting the statements, but the themes. So often you had multiple themes across one statement. Okay. So we're also looking at what forming groups are planning. But this is just kind of a first pass. Okay. A moment here. Okay. So in the aggregate, right, co-housing is, I think, aging a little bit. And in our sample in particular, I think skews even older, right, than is, so in other words, it's not as representative as it could be. But there are, there's plenty of reports of younger families interested in co-housing and raising children in co-housing communities. I hear that all the time. So there does seem to be this kind of this resurgence. And obviously this is a really important topic related to the staying power, right? The next generation and the potential for growth, co-housing, and of course, all the positive benefits that we think co-housing has, right? Those can only spread if co-housing continues to grow. So obviously it's an important concern. So I know there's more children in co-housing total than 68, but that's the sample and the data that we got, total number of children. But I also looked at respondents or households or respondents age 60 or younger, the assumption being made that there's unlikely to be households with children in multi-generational co-housing that have younger children. I know it's an assumption. I've gotten some criticism for that, but I did make that assumption for this. I don't think it makes a whole lot of difference, but anyway, there it is. So given these assumptions, the percentage of age 60 and younger households with children is 47%. Okay. So, yeah, so there you have it. Aside from this way of kind of thinking about the issue, we also asked the respondents of established communities how much, quote, how much do you think children and teenagers benefit from living in co-housing? And you can see just by kind of eyeballing the chart here that it does appear to be quite a lot of benefit. That's what people think anyway, when they're thinking about the issue, not in relation to themselves necessarily, but just what's your view of children in co-housing. And we see that it looks to be especially the case for younger children. And we also, just to let you know other questions that we asked about this, we also collected data on the strategies that communities and groups are using to attract younger families or younger people with children. But we don't have enough to do everything here. So that's just a taste. Okay, now let's look at some of the effects of co-housing in these areas, life satisfaction and loneliness, which I think can help to shed some light on our wider society and the frequently expressed desire for, more community, greater sense of community. And of course, co-housing maybe has a part to play here. Okay, so we have a little bit of math, not too much, but a little bit. So what are you looking at here? And of course I can't, well, it doesn't matter. I can look at my notes. So if you look at the upper half, the first set of tables that you see there, you can see the questions that we asked, two questions basically on satisfaction, degree of satisfaction with life in general. And then the next question basically asks about the role of co-housing, what they think the role of co-housing is in their satisfaction. And then if you look to the right, you can see that you can see the median values for phase 1 and phase 2 for both of these questions. And we took the median. It really is with this type of data, it's ideal to take the median. So that means the middle value in this sample. And so, the results are similar, and they're both at the highest level. The median value is 5, right? Extremely satisfied on this Likert scale. And then it's the same situation with the second question on the role of co-housing, but it's reverse coding. So lower is good, quote unquote. Okay, so, you see this pretty high level of satisfaction. And then it persists over time. And the reason I put phase 1 and phase 2 is to sort of give a sense of why we're doing this over time research to see, perhaps satisfaction had gone down, right? Or maybe it will go down. So, but at least for these first 2 phases, it looks pretty good. In the lower half, you can see we use the same question. The question is there, but this time we want to make a comparison with a national survey. It's a YouGov survey. There were 2 phases. And the question is a little bit different, but I thought it was close enough to try and make some kind of comparison. And the scale is a little bit different. It's a 10-point scale instead of a 5-point scale. So what I did was I used the mean or the average instead of the median. Okay. So I switched the 5-point scale to a 100-point scale. And then I also switched the 10-point scale to a 100-point scale so that they can be compared to each other. And that is what what you are looking at on the right side there. So not only do we have continuity from phase 1 to phase 2, which is kind of replicates, the data that you see in the top half, but then also you can, if you compare top to bottom, well, we're still in the second half, right? If you compare the CRN results, survey results with the YouGov results, it's a little higher, right? 85 out of 100 versus 61 out of 100, and then 86 out of 100 and 61 out of 100 again. So I don't want to make too much of this, but that's it does tell us something. Okay, keeping track of time here. On loneliness, what you're looking at is data on the question that we use that comes from the UCLA 3-item loneliness measure, and this is well established in academic literature, mostly in psychology, and this is used to assess levels of loneliness. Yeah, so the question is, please answer the following questions, and you can see the questions, the 3 questions that define each chart. And of course, we could spend a lot of time looking at this, but I think maybe it's just to get a quick judgment. If you look at the very small percentages in the often category, so often feeling, you lack companionship and so forth, co-housers do not appear to be very lonely overall. And perhaps this is not surprising. Okay, the next couple of slides relate to green infrastructures and processes, which I think you'll see point to another positive mark for co-housing. That is, if we are keeping score. Let's see. Yeah, so, this is a question, of course, this is self-report, and these are individuals. So these are people kind of assessing, or what they think about this. Are we using, are we doing more to reduce our carbon footprint, or about the same? And there's clearly a very positive self-conception in this regard. And then looking at the second item there, there's about a 27% decrease in miles driven annually. This was from the first phase, which is pretty impressive when you think about it. I think people do have a sense of pretty much, if not exactly, but they have a good sense of how far they've driven in a previous year. Well, at least anybody who owns a car, right? And not everybody does. But anyway, such as it is, I think it's a pretty good indicator. We are going to be asking, for some unknown reason, it was not included in phase 2, but in phases 3, 4, and 5, we're going to ask about miles driven each year, and sort of to try and get a grip on that, if that's a lasting, positive effect over time. And we didn't adjust. Next time or not just next time, but anytime we want to, we can also filter by multi-generational or a senior community. So in other words, you might expect people who move to a senior community to, maybe they'd be more inclined to, not drive as much. And we didn't adjust for age of respondent for this particular data, but we can do that easily enough. Okay. So this is a question that we added to the second phase, and we'll continue to ask it. And mind you, we did ask this of individuals about their communities. So that's what you're looking at, is data on individuals. Not, it's the data itself is not at a community level. So I think this is pretty impressive. Basically, if we don't have time obviously to go over the whole chart, but among those who reported that their community has any of these technologies, right? Most reported that the whole community is served, right? And you can see that by looking at the first column right? So the one major exception is on-site battery energy storage. And most people reported no for that. And, you know, that makes sense. It's in the kind of an emergent area. Okay. And again, we also wanted to share with you some written responses on kind of just write more freely about the sustainability related and pro-environmental mental characteristics and practices in your community. And again, just like I explained before, we're looking for themes, and these are individual respondents thinking about and reporting on their own communities. So we had 300 responses, total statements. And just like before, we identified themes in the statements and then counted the number of times the themes occurred in the responses. And again, you can have one statement that lists the number of different or multiple themes, not just one. So the table lists the top 30 themes, which showed up a total of 1,756 times. So it's pretty obvious the respondents are citing multiple sustainability characteristics. The table is in order of how prominent each of the themes is. And I can tell you that about 30%, I think, were directly related to clean energy. So that is interesting. So it does kind of overall look like there's strong environmental values, not at all surprising. And these values are manifested in these various processes and infrastructures in co-housing communities. Okay. I happen to be interested in this question. I'm not the only one. I am, have been kind of standing on the shoulders of others. But anyway, I thought I should just say that because it seems like there might be kind of an obvious connection there. Okay. So some of the questions that we asked in the CRN survey are used in major national surveys going back decades, as I mentioned. And one such national survey is called the American National Election Survey, or ANES. And you can see the question here. This is a common question. In the past year, have you done any of the following? Check all that apply. And this is data from the 2022 ANES pilot study, which was done at about the same time as the first phase of the CRN survey. And you can see that there's not all of the questions were asked of the in the ANES study, but I'm still reporting on what co-housers did and the extent of their participation, just to kind of have it out there. And I think this question is good because it kind of gets at other forms of political participation besides voting. Some of these forms are a little bit more intensive and more kind of, they might be indicative of greater interest in politics. Okay, so it does look like, judging from this data, that co-housers are more participatory in politics than the general population, kind of overall. And so the question is, why this pattern? I know a lot of it will have to do with self-selection, meaning that people who are attracted to co-housing might tend to be joiners, right? And they might be more civic minded. In other words, that they're already that way. They don't necessarily need co-housing to make them interested in politics. But I don't think that's the whole explanation. And so let's get into that a little bit. So myself and others, we have found some evidence to suggest that the many opportunities for involvement in the many, many types of activities and processes that happen in co-housing to kind of bring people together and work together, that this kind of carries over into other realms, including politics, right? That whether it's like a habit of mind or kind of developing skills and confidence, sense of efficacy, right? These are all kinds of hypotheses that are out there. That maybe helps to, if you already had an inclination to be involved in politics, that co-housing might intensify that. Or if you didn't have it before, co-housing might make that change. so we'll just sit with this for a moment. And so I just wanted to show you an example of questions about co-housing activities. One of the core activities, obviously, is common meals. And so this is kind of how we ask the question in the first two phases. And just know that there are 26 different of these activities that we ask about. I just wanted to sort of show you, just give an example, one to show you what it looks like. Another kind of activity, it's not organized. In fact, it's spontaneous. But that's also a really important part of co-housing. It's kind of speaks to, you know, how the built environment and landscaping and so forth, and just how does it kind of work to intensify or to encourage people to physically interact more. So this is also an important variable. Like an example of spontaneous interactions would be like conversations on community pathways. Okay, so what you're looking at here is you can see that the data that we were just looking at before, writing to Congress, etc. So I just took people who said that they did that. Okay. And then kind of broke it down by involvement in or participating in spontaneous social interactions, right? And so this doesn't prove anything, but it does sort of suggest that there's some type of relationship, you know. In other words, those who are engaging in more of these conversations, being more active in co-housing, also tend to be more political. Okay, so it's just just a sketch. Obviously, there have to be more analysis of that, but I just wanted people to see that. And then aside, yeah, excuse me, just checking my time. So we can also look at whether or not there is a relationship between being in co-housing or being involved in co-housing activities and the substance of the politics, the particular issues. I know that Jim Mandel's son was at the conference, and that I'm asking about this thanks to him because, or I don't know if it was Jim or his son, but maybe both of them thought this might be an interesting thing to look at, and I agreed. And so anyway, I added a question about that, but this is just from data that we already had, what you're looking at here. So let's start with this question of activism. The reason that the question is phrased this way is because the question just before was about whether or not respondents are active in the co-housing movement. So that's why it's phrased that way. And so, you know, it's just straightforward there. These are results from phase 1, and you can see that it's about 56% of the sample could be characterized as you know, as activists by this measure. Okay, so those replying yes to the question on the previous slide were then prompted to specify the movements. And what you see here are, again, the top 20 themes in the written responses. And they were, I don't need to explain because it's, you know, coded, and the themes were counted using the same process as for the other written questions that we've talked about. And so you can see that the entries are in order of how prominent each of the top 20 themes is. And, you know, so it's interesting to get a look there. Perhaps it's not surprising. Environmental causes and climate change do account for about 22% of the total occurrences of themes. Justice categories, including anti-racism, count for about 17%. And then women's rights and reproductive rights account for about 15%. Again, there's a lot more work to be done here and more digging that needs to happen into this rich supply of qualitative data. So this is it for kind of presenting the data, and I just wanted to just note a couple of new questions that we added. The second question is the one that Jim suggested, Jim Mendel. I think it's a good one. And then the one just before it, I'm already realizing that needs to be revised to say work done within the community, because that I think that's a question that I've seen come up in lots of articles that I've read about in co-housing research, and I don't know, I think it's important to think about. So let's just give you an idea of how this works. With each phase, we do add some more questions. We're adding more than this, but I just wanted to give a sample. And yeah, so feel free to email me directly. I have my email there. I mean, you can also email Neil, but email me, what you're interested in learning about, what you want to know about. And then myself and the larger team we can assess whether or not we need to add a survey question or two in order to address that question, right, in phase 4. So it's not necessarily, you don't have to send me exact survey questions, but just sort of your research questions, what you want to learn. And then we can think about that. And then just in general, if you have questions about the presentation that you just saw, or questions about the research in general, I know that Neil's going to talk broaden the conversation a little bit. So that's it. Should I stop sharing my screen?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Okay.
So I have to start with thank you, Heidi, for today and so
Thank
much,
you.
so much more. And for those of you who came to listen to a little bit of the research network work that's going on to support CoHoUS, provide some insights for other organizations that some of us have deep affiliations with and partnerships. Foundation for Intentional Community comes to mind, Sociocracy comes for all comes to mind, and many others that you may have crossed paths with over time. And I just am filled with joy and gratitude at how Heidi and other academic researchers who make up this circle of researchers, specifically who've taken time out of their lives to help us gather the data, interpret it, make it visible, make it easily digestible, as easily as it can be for most of us. And for me, it's certainly been a learning curve. I also just know, with close on 15 years maybe of being connected with the Cohousing Research Network, with the folks that Heidi was alluding to, whose shoulders we stand on, really is an organization that keeps on taking time to present at conferences, and again, just make some of this data, appreciate the importance of this data, and have moments like these in partnership with CoUS and having us be more visible. So it's just an extraordinary opportunity for me personally, but also I think for just a large swath of you, the professionals who are supporting the growth of this movement, and then all these organizations that speak into the world of cooperative culture, of which there's way more than even I know about. I don't really need to say much. I just have an invitation for you all, and for those listening to the recording, to just second Heidi's invitation. We grow this survey every 5 years, and even sometimes the sub-surveys a smidge, to include requests that come to us from various leaders, including residents, forming communities, into this research. And if beyond that, you just feel drawn to data, visualizations, just even being willing to be in conversations that relate to research, then the door for us is wide open. So please just be in touch with Heidi directly. I'll put my credentials in the chat here, and I'll invite you to come and visit our very much in need of dusting current website. I'll also just give you a quick peek into a future that is unfolding for the Research Network. And that is that we have chosen, all of us have chosen, to stay focused and deeply rooted in the data and in the co-housing ecosystem. And we're also looking to create a bigger tent to include what most of Europe, a lot of Canada, I presume some of us in the US, sort of bundle the work of community-led housing. And so I'm beginning to adopt that language a little bit more. Again, it's just a manifestation of opening up the door a little wider than co-housing, and to just invite folks who feel more comfortable with that language or feel more comfortable as you're journeying towards that format rather than the co-housing model, both of which are hugely successful and bring lots of joy to thousands of people, to come and just be in conversation with us. You're welcome to sit in on some of the meetings. I'm happy to set up some time to meet with you. And yeah, I have a few goosebumps just thinking about the possibility that some of you might be interested. I also just say that it's times like these and times at our biannual conferences where I'm always humbled by the numbers of people who choose to come and listen to Heidi and look at grids. And we have a few people on the team who are going to enhance some of Heidi's documentation with some flashier, more modern looking visuals, which will help me and probably others better understand. So anyway, thanks for coming, and I'll hand it over to whoever's taking over next. Thanks for coming, everybody.
Hey, thanks so much. So we do have a little bit of time for questions, whether it's questions about the research for Heidi or questions about the future of the research initiative for Neil and Heidi. So if you have questions, go ahead and write them in the chat. That'll let us kind of consolidate and see what's on your minds out there. So I will just give a moment for you to get some questions up there. Maybe I'll kick it off with a question for Heidi, Neil, and then I'll turn it over to you. Heidi, Carol has a question about age difference based on regions. So they write, do you see an age difference regionally? Co-housing is often thought to skew older, however, it might not in areas where the cost of building is lower. So curious if you could speak to that. And then I'll turn it over.
Yeah, we haven't. I mean, that's a good, that's information that we can get. We haven't specifically looked for that or noticed it, but we have zip codes. So, and we have demographic data. So we could look for that. And if your question is in the chat, right? I assume we're saving the chat so I can, keep that question and look, yeah, explore that further. So the answer is I don't know now, but that's information that we could get.
If we don't have, which is more likely than not, have direct specific answers to your questions, please do reach out. I'll keep posting it a few times as the ticker tape of my Zoom chat is moving along. Please write to us, and as you've heard many a time already, we'd love to sort of incorporate the voices of many. What else is here? Yes, it's moving pretty fast over here. Mitch, wow, thank you. Sort of speechless. Is there a database or such to filter by parameters we are looking for in housing? So there's definitely some solid infrastructure. You saw some of it today. And there's a few folks of the younger professional generation who've joined CRN recently who are bringing that skill set to us. And so this year, hopefully in time for our regional conference on November 2nd in Sacramento, and again, next year where we will gather for the national conference, we will endeavor to make those things more visible. And so that's sort of, as an executive director of this clan and information, I'm sort of taking responsibility for keeping those things moving forward. So some of it exists.
Let me just,
yes, go for it.
Can I jump in? Yeah. So I mean, I mean, we have a huge amount of data that we can filter and analyze and run regression analyses and all these things. But so that's something we can do like right now, and what we are doing right now. on the data that we already have. But as for, I think Neil was answering your question as though you were asking about creating, like an interactive kind of a database. And that is that is something that that we want to, that we're going to work on for sure, as we get more and more data. I hope this makes sense, because we can already filter. I mean, we can filter and to Mars and back. But as for creating some kind of system where other people, an interactive database of some sort, that is in the works. Yeah, although it's not available yet.
Yeah, it's challenging to the call and need and longing for some of this data and interest is really, I'm feeling the pull of it from the voices out in my circles. And there's only a few of us. Just if you'd like to come and help, again, we'd love to have you. Um, um, but yeah, I mean, I'm excited to think about the future, and there's still a lot here for us to be able to customize should you have a specific requirement. And remember, we all have full-time lives and jobs.
We can't make the data sets public yet, but
Yeah, right.
we will. I'm sorry, I just thought I'd
Yeah, no,
spontaneously,
please
I saw
do.
that come up. But
Yeah,
we will. I mean, we have a number of researchers, that are working on this and sort of want first crack, at doing analyses and, trying to get published. So there is that kind of, maybe a little bit of tension in like, but there's a lot of data that we already have that we should make public soon. Each year we get a new batch, I guess, data
thanks for
set.
that must ask question, Sebastian. Heading in that direction. What else do we have here? I'm going to just keep on reading. Melanie, did you ask any open-ended questions in the research? Any stories that caught your attention that you could tell?
Well, we did ask, I mean, I guess that we did, yeah, oh yeah, there's definitely a lot of open-ended questions. And it did, like the text questions that I attempted to analyze, the several that I shared with you, those were like other, right? So it's like a multiple choice question, and then like, please expand on this, or is it other? So that's one type of text question that we have, but we also have, yeah, a huge amount of open-ended data. We have questions about like, how do you think co-housing has improved your life? How do you think it's going to improve your life? Depending on, like, we do filter the questions based on community type. Like if you're in a established group or an established community, you'll get one question, and if you're in a forming group, you get another. So we did a lot of that kind of filtering and who saw what question. So yeah, we asked questions about strategies to make their communities more affordable, and
Decision
to
making.
attract more younger families. Neil, if you want to also, let's see, I think of some interesting stories. Yeah, what we did add a couple questions in phase 2. What got you interested in co-housing? The very beginning. Yeah, how did you get interested? When and how did you get interested in co-housing? Um,
And
and we're
another
also in,
thing, go
yeah,
ahead,
I'm
Heidi.
sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, so yeah, so another piece of this sort of undelivered goodies is that we have a couple of academics on the steering committee on the research network who could not come to Denver for our conference, and who I'm trying to coordinate a time for both Chuck and Diane to present their analysis, their interpretation of all of a solid collection of comments. The specific piece that they were focusing on were comments that related to decision making, which we can't do without. So this is going to turn into a virtual event. I'm hoping to have this happen before the end of the year. Again, we're coordinating with folks who have full-time lives, who live in community, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So again, there's lots of fascinating stuff that I can't wait to share. And it's just not in a way that it's not redacted, some of it, and we just have to be super cautious and respectful of what's coming, of what's currently in there. So again, promises we have, and delivery dates we don't quite, but I'm willing to commit to end of this year and possibly November in Sacramento. Check.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much. I saw a lot of questions, and just as want to reiterate, this is all recorded. So there was so much good information. We're going to send out the recording to those of you who attended, to those who registered and weren't able to make it live, and frankly, to our entire community. So give us a little bit of time. We've got a whole week of events, but we will be sharing those links out soon. So just as a reminder, let me share with you the rest.
But you saved the chat, right? You saved
Yeah,
the
we'll
chat.
save the chat too. Yep.
Fantastic.
We will
Okay, 'cause
definitely.
I'll look at the chat to see what questions people have
Perfect.
that are
Great.
relevant to research.
Yeah. Great. Well, this was an incredible kickoff of our National Co-Housing Week, and we're just getting started. So I invite you to join the rest of our events. Tomorrow we'll be here at a slightly different time, 3 o'clock Central, which is 4 o'clock Eastern. We're going to do a Midwest spotlight and talk about co-housing adjacent models, or other community rooted housing. We're going to hear from a board member who's going to talk about housing cooperatives and a project called the People's Mansion in Denver, which is really exciting. Then on Wednesday, we will hear from our folks in the Pacific Northwest and talk about seniors in co-housing, which will include both information about senior co-housing communities and seniors in multi-generational communities. So come and hear from Diane and Lou, our senior co-housing committee folks, on that. And then on Thursday, we're going to close it out with a storytelling event. There will be a chance to share stories with one another, and then we'll hear from a few handpicked storytellers about what it's like to live in community. So bring your tissues and join us for that event on Thursday. And then, of course, all weekend is our open house events across the country. It's literally changing by the day, by the hour. There are events added. So please keep checking back on that map to see what's in your area or what's virtual. And you can learn more about co-housing that way. And then just a reminder, I'll post this one more time, but that new member deal is good for National Co-Housing Week. So join us for extremely high discounts. We've never had a discount program this significant. So we hope that you take the opportunity to join us. And then just remember, you're part of this. You're part of a movement for a more connected future, a more sustainable future, a more democratic one. We truly believe that co-housing and human connection is a solution to many of the social problems that we face, and we can't do this work without your support. So scan that QR code, which I just took away. You know what's easier? Click on this link here in the chat to support Coho US. And thank you everyone for being here. We hope you have a wonderful rest of your day and a happy National Co-Housing Week. And if you're sticking around for those membership deals, I've got the links right here.